So I've already downloaded the GitHub desktop. Next thing will be for me to sign in. So just to sign in, I can just trigger the sign in by clicking on clone a repository from the internet. Remember what a repository is from the last module, from the last content. A repository is a container, a bucket for our application, where we push our application to. Where I talked about Git, if you don't remember, go and read the notes again or watch the video once more. A repository is where we push our application to, that remote location where we push our applications to. So github.com, sign in, continue with browser, and I'm going to sign in. I'm already signed into GitHub. I've already created an account. So it automatically signs me in, and you can see some of the repository I've worked with in the past. So you too, you can create an account and sign into your GitHub desktop. And once you are done, I'm going to create a new repository on my hard drive. You don't need to create a new repository. For test, you can create a new repository, but in more practical sense, your company or your company application is going to have an existing repository. You're only creating a new repository if you're starting afresh with a new project and you don't have a tech lead or someone in charge of creating repositories or setting up these processes within your company. But apart from that, there's very likely that a repository already exists. So you can just get the URL and add an existing clone a repository from the internet. But for the purpose of testing, right, let's just create a new repository on your hard drive. So I'll call the repo demi-ng products management. I want it to be on my documents. I can initialize it to README. It's not important. It's just another file and create the repository. So I've created a new repository within my code base. Let me open my code ID, WebStorm. You could use VS Code or anyone. I'm just going to open WebStorm. And from here, I would import a new application. So let me open a new application. So remember I said Git is actually primarily a CLI application, but we are going to be using GitHub Desktop for most of the interaction. If I was to interact with Git as a CLI application, I would have just run Git command and it would automatically respond to me. It tell me the branch I'm in. I'm on branch main or master. Remember from the Git module, I'm on branch mail and there is nothing to commit. Good. So let's go back to my GitHub and see if the repository I just created exists. Where are you? Show more. Let me see all my repositories. Oh, I did not push it. I only created it locally. So this is it. Let me just delete everything here. Okay. So now let me create a file within my repository. Don't think too much about this. It's just a basic HTML file. I welcome to this course. A simple HTML file. So I can load this in the browser just to test that everything works well. Open in browser, Chrome. Welcome. So this works well. So when we are done deploying, I should be able to go to the URL that the deployment provider gives me and see, welcome to this course. In fact, let me even make it more personalized. Welcome to demi-ng products technology for, let me use uppercase P, managers course. So let me reload this. And you can say, welcome to the demi-ng technology management course, right? So that's it. So when I deploy to GitHub Pages, we should see it there. It should appear. So the first thing I want to do is to deploy to GitHub. I've created the repository. I can publish the repository. Let me do that. Publish repository, so it will appear on my GitHub. Most of this would have been done for you already, except it's a new project. If you want to know more about this, we can actually talk during the live class, or we can talk one-on-one, and I'll explain in more in-depth of this. But usually as a PM, you might not need too much of the in-depth of this, right? Just the surface. So after that, I've pushed it. So if I reload this, I would see it here. This is it. This is a repository. But as you can see, there is really no file inside it except that file. So let me push the code. Let me push this index.html code to my GitHub. I'm using the CLI commands. You don't really need to know them. These are just basic CLI commands. Oh no, okay. So let me just push my change. I've committed it. I've clicked on push. So when I reload this page, you will see my index file that I just created, index.html. This is where welcome to Demi. So we've not deployed it yet because you can't access it without being on GitHub. So we need to deploy it to make it available on GitHub. So like the way project manager, I would not just deploy it. I'll walk you through how to even figure out how to use this product in the first place. So you want to deploy it to GitHub Pages. You know that GitHub Pages exists for deploying static pages, and now we have a static page. How do I even go about figuring out how to set up GitHub Pages? So the first thing first is just a quick Google search, how to deploy to GitHub Pages. So let's just see, open a new tab, configuring a push source for your GitHub size. So on GitHub, navigate to size repository, under repository, click settings, code and optimization, under build and deployment, select to deploy from a branch. Under build and implementation, under branch, use none. So you just read through the process. And just follow it. So let's follow through, right? So the first thing, I'm on GitHub, navigate to your site repository. We're already there. This is it, right? Then under the repository, click settings. So go to settings. In the code and automation section of the sidebar, click pages. So under settings, code and automation section of the sidebar. So in the code and automation section of the sidebar, click on pages. So I'll come here. I can see code and automation pages. So I'll click on pages. Remember our books that we talked about in the last episode, in last module. So GitHub Pages is designed to host your personal projects or application. Oops, my repository is currently private, so I can't create GitHub Pages to it except I upgrade. So I'll just make it public. So let's make it public. Settings. Public. Where do I make it public? Change visibility. Make public. I'll have to copy this. And now my repository is public, so it means everybody can access it. I'll reload this. And when I come back to GitHub Pages, you can see GitHub Pages is designed to host. I have access to it. Deploy from a branch. Let me just deploy from a branch. Branch. Select. Let me select from the main branch. Root. Save. And it's as simple as that. And I would have successfully deployed. I can't do custom domain, but it's as simple as that. I've successfully deployed to a GitHub Pages. So done deploying. As you can see, this is my site. If you don't see this, you can just reload it and you see that your site is live at this. So let me visit my site. And you can see, hi, welcome to Demi NG for product management. I have my own dedicated website and my own dedicated site. I've successfully deployed a static site to GitHub Pages. Simple, right? Simple deployment process. Let me walk you through again. Create a repository, push it to GitHub, go to settings, enable. You can also use this for your own portfolio sites. As a product manager, you probably shouldn't use GitHub for your portfolio site except you're a developer. But it's not exactly a bad idea to use it for your own portfolio site. Let me make a little bit of change to this and see if it will show. Immediately I push. So I'm just going to add a little bit of styling to it. I want it to look a little bit less ugly and make it more by just giving it the color blue. Ignore. So let me run this locally first of all to make sure everything is fine. Open in browser, open in Chrome. So it's color blue, it's not my color black. Let me bolding. Welcome to Demi NG. I want Demi NG to be big. A little bit of narcissism there. I like my name. My name is not Demi NG, but you get the point. I like Demi NG. So let me reload this. It's a little bit thicker. Okay, let me just make it an H1. So good. This looks a little bit different from what we have. So let me push this and deploy it and see if it will reflect immediately. This is a caveat. I was testing it locally before. Now I'm pushing it to GitHub using the push origin. And when I'm done pushing and deploying, you can see this was there before, demiob.github.io. When I reload this, it hasn't changed yet. It takes some time to change. Just hold on a little bit. The new deployment is here. So we wait for it to change. It gives it a little bit. So I've pushed. I'm expecting this to change. It will take Okay, how to change? Oh, good, it has changed. I was scared for a moment there when it did not change. But a simple Google search showed me that it could take at least 20 minutes to change sometimes. So you can see we've deployed our code to GitHub. Now your developers are going to do most of this. More practically, you're probably not going to be using GitHub Pages in your company because it only works for static pages. You're going to be using much more comprehensive deployment systems like Heroku or Netlify. GitHub Pages is just a quick way to just get started with deploying things. Let me walk you through the step I just did. Not that you should really know them off the top of your head, but then I created a repository. Remember, I talked about repository in the Git section. After creating a repository, I added my file, an index.html file, a very simple web page file. Just, hi, welcome to the MENG Technical Product Management course. Then I added it to the repository and pushed it to my repository on GitHub. Remember, talked about repository, we talked about pushing, talked about the branches. So I pushed to the main branch and I went to my GitHub settings. Under code and automation, I clicked on pages and I enabled pages for that branch. Something you can do on your own. Like I said, your company, you're probably not going to be using GitHub pages. Nobody really uses it for production level applications. So let's take a look at Heroku, a much more standard application that we can look at. We're also going to be deploying this exact code base to Heroku. So let's